Hey guys, I'm Daisho and I am back with some more tier list action. And today we're going to be going over tier 2. And there's I think 4 tier 2 decks I have. Obviously, vampires made it in here. And this is going to be like, you're going to see a common theme plus one misfit. But anyway, vampires are amazing. Blade of the Bloodchief is... Oof, I was about to say the best equipment in the game, but I can't hate on Sword of War and Peace that much. It's the second best equipment in the game. If you get this thing out turn 1, and you've got a Vampire Aristocrat, and some low-cost dudes, or some removal, Vicious Hunger is just the craziest with that, then you're gonna win the game. You just basically gain so much value from being able to put 2 counters on all your dudes whenever someone dies, which you can force happening. So it's definitely one of the better cards in the deck. Child of Night, obviously cool. Bloodghast, probably the best, one of the top 3 vampires in the deck. It's a 2-drop, and it can't be killed by anyone ever. Malakir, 2-for-1 every time. Kills one of their dudes, is a 2-2 himself. Bloodhusk Ritualist, like, every single time I see this card, I'm just like, meh, I don't really care. It's not so good, and I'm not really happy to see it. But, I mean, it does win you so many games that you can't take it out. And, like, I mean, I would put Sengir Vampire in probably over it. Because, like, the Blood Rage Vampires, I really don't like them. Baroni Vampire, why am I running a 3-2? This is a tier 2, 3-2 for 3. This is a tier 1 deck, whatever, tier 2, who cares? It's one of the best decks in the game. I'm not running a bad card. I'd rather, I don't even remember what card I was talking about, but Bloodhusk Ritualist, which is a card that can win you the game. Plus, it has synergy with Snaggermancer. Anyway, there's Barter and Blood, which sometimes is really useful, sometimes really not useful, but it's the closest thing that this deck can get to mass removal, which it rarely needs, but if it does, it'll save you. Again, you can run marginal cards, but I'd rather run Barter and Blood. So I have 2 of them in the deck. Basically, all the standard vampires, these guys are sometimes really, really, really good, so you have to run them, even though they're sometimes bad. Destroy target creature, I don't know why you wouldn't run all of them. Creature removal is so rare in, like, all the decks, so, I don't know, it's just really, really cool. But anyway, Skeletal Vampire obviously wins you games, Drana obviously wins you games. You guys know everything about the vampires, Nocturnus. God, this card's awesome. You guys know everything about the vampires. They've been around forever, so it's pretty obvious that it should be in tier 2. I know a lot of people think that it should be tier 1, but you know, it's good. I don't think it's nearly as good as March to War or Realm. But anyway, that'll do it for the vampires. I'll be right back with the next deck. Hey guys, welcome back. I am now gonna give you a little tour of my Guardians of the Wood. This is still 2nd tier, so far we've had Realm of Illusion, March to War, and Benighted in tier 1, and this is Blood Hunger and Guardians of the Wood, aka the Elves, in tier 2. And there are a couple of ways to run the Elves. I mean, obviously there's Mono Green, which a lot of people figured out pretty early on. I know a lot of people had the idea themselves. It wasn't just like one person all of a sudden is like, ZOMG Mono Green Elves, everybody should do this. But, I don't know, I do like to keep in the removal. The removal spells are all excellent. But anyway, I just find that this deck is one of the best aggro decks in the game. It uses their little dudes. Well, not him, but it uses the little dudes in the deck, and then it makes them gigantic and pumps them, and then they're awesome. I know I just did a Daisho's playbook on this deck, so there's not really that much to discuss other than like where they stand in the metagame or so. So basically, at the beginning, I felt that this was like it was like the 4th or the 5th best deck before all the other decks came out, because I mean there's still Realm of Illusion, Vampires, Unquenchable, like all those decks were consistently beating it, and this deck I really felt and still kind of feel that it can't ever really beat Unquenchable, and that was the most powerful deck in the format. So Elves were kind of low down on the list. The only real way to win with, I mean, the best way to win with them is to get an Elvish Champion, Azuri, Imperious Perfect, or a Heedless one out, or just Elvish Promenade plus Might of the Masses. Just do one of those things, and then basically you've won the game. You just swing in with 25,000 little dudes, and then and then you're happy. And that's really the best way to win with this deck. And like, I mean, for the most part, it's resistant to removal. It's not quite as resistant as something like zombies or whatever, but because they can just kill your champions and stuff. But at least you still have all those little dudes out there. So if they've only got a couple of kill spells, it's not really great. If they have something like Pyroclasm, that'll usually wreck you. It doesn't kill Nisa's Chosen, but it kills all your other little elves, unless you've got a Lord out, and it basically destroys you. So Pyroclasm, Volcanic Fallout, that kind of stuff just wrecks this deck. And obviously board clears like Day of Judgment or Black Sun Zenith, so like Dark Heavens kind of stuff. If they're able to get a board clear out mid-game, so like say you've got 2 cards left in hand and you got a bunch of dudes on the field and they're at 12 life, then you've pretty much lost the game, because even once you lose all your elves that are on the battlefield, you lose so much like traction, and all of a sudden you're just like, where did this game go? But anyway, it's pretty cool. This is one of the best decks to have 2 colors in, because even though it's 18 and 6, it doesn't need to run those lands that come into play tapped, because it has all the Viridian Emissaries and it's got 2 Sylvan Rangers. So you've got we'll say 8+, because I have six swamps in there, and Viridian Emissaries don't always count as land fetchers, but Sylvan Rangers do. So you've got 8+ sources of black mana, so it's really easy to run the black cards, especially since there aren't that many of them for the deck. There's just basically Maelstrom Pulse and Eyeblight's Ending, and that's the real reason why I run them. I have 1 Essence Drain in there. You know, sometimes it's useful. Like, I mean, I would like to run 3 of them in there, but you just have to, I mean, you really need to find the balance between having the right amount of small guys, the right amount of big guys, and the right amount of kill spells. And Fog is obviously none of the above. But, I mean, obviously, it does win games, so it's pretty good. Anyway. I think that's where the elves stand. They're really powerful as an aggro deck. If your opponent doesn't really disrupt you, you can win the game in 5 or 6 turns pretty consistently. You just get a few dudes out, play Heedless One, play Elvish Promenade, play Might of the Masses. All of those cards you have multiples of in the deck, so it's not that hard to do, and you'll win. And plus you do have Eyeblight's Ending and Maelstrom Pulse, so you can get rid of opponent's creatures if they're really starting to bother you. If you're playing mono green, it's a little bit faster, but it loses some of the it loses all of the removal power pretty much. But if you want to run it that way, that's fine. There's definitely enough good cards to put in to make it a pretty decent mono green deck. So there's definitely that option. So basically, in summary, the elves are really powerful. They're really fast. But they do have weaknesses. They're resistant to board clears. They're not resistant. They're very weak to board clears. And if your opponent has any of them, then you could be in pretty big trouble. So definitely watch out for that. They still make it to a really high tier, tier 2 overall, because they just basically wreck most decks. They pretty much lose to decks that are better than it, but anything tier 3 or lower, it'll basically beat consistently. And I really like the elves, and I think that they're one of the best decks. So anyway, let's move on to the next one.